Nationalism and self-determination. The Oromo struggle in context. Nationalism is one of the most powerful and most misunderstood forces in modern history. It has built nations, broken empires, inspired liberation, and justified domination. From Europe to Africa, from Asia to the Americas, nationalism has shaped how peoples understand who they are and who gets to decide their future. Today, we explore nationalism in its general sense, and then focus on one specific case, Oromo nationalism and the struggle for self-determination. This is not a story of slogans. It is a story of history, power, law, and dignity. Part 1. What is nationalism? Nationalism, at its simplest, is the belief that a people who share a common identity should have political recognition and control over their collective destiny. That identity may come from a shared language, a shared culture, a shared history, or a shared experience of injustice. Political theorist Benedict described nations as imagined communities. Not imaginary, but imagined in the sense that members may never meet, yet still feel bound together by shared narratives and symbols. Another scholar, Ernest Gellner, argued that nationalism is a product of modernity, a response to centralized states, mass education, and economic transformation. Despite different theories, scholars broadly agree on this. Nationalism emerges where identity and power collide. It asks a fundamental question: who are the people, and who governs in their name? Part 2. Types of nationalism. Nationalism takes different forms. Some states promote civic nationalism, where belonging is defined by citizenship and shared political values. Others emphasize ethno-cultural nationalism, rooted in language, ancestry, and historical memory. In reality, most nationalisms are mixed. Even so-called civic nations rely on cultural assumptions, while cultural nationalisms often demand civic equality. What matters is not the label, but whether nationalism is used to liberate or dominate. Part 3. Nationalism and self-determination. The concept of self-determination emerged in global politics after World War I and became binding international law after World War II. It is enshrined in the United Nations Charter, the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, and the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. Self-determination has two dimensions. First, internal self-determination, the right of a people to meaningful political participation, cultural freedom, and autonomy within an existing state. Second, external self-determination, the right to independence or secession, usually reserved for colonial situations or extreme oppression. International law strongly prefers internal self-determination, but when internal avenues are systematically blocked, nationalism intensifies and demands become more radical. Part 4. Historical roots of Oromo nationalism. To understand Oromo nationalism, history matters. The Oromo are one of the largest indigenous peoples in the Horn of Africa. Long before modern Ethiopia, they developed their own political system, the Gadaa system, a complex, democratic form of governance recognized by UNESCO. In the late 19th century, Oromia was incorporated into the expanding Ethiopian empire largely through military conquest. The consequences were profound: large-scale land dispossession, political exclusion, suppression of Afan Oromo, and cultural marginalization. For generations, Oromo identity was treated not as a foundation of the state, but as a problem to be managed. Oromo nationalism did not arise from theory. It arose from experience. Part 5. From cultural resistance to political demand. Early Oromo resistance focused on survival, preserving language, culture, and memory. Over time, this resistance evolved into a political movement demanding recognition as a people, equality within the state, control over land and resources, and the right to decide their political future. This is the core of self-determination nationalism. It is not built on ethnic supremacy. It is built on the rejection of domination. Part 6. Federalism and its limits. In 1995, Ethiopia adopted a constitution that formally recognized nations, nationalities, and peoples, linguistic and cultural rights, and the right to self-determination, including secession. On paper, this was revolutionary. In practice, power remained highly centralized. Political repression, militarization, mass arrests, and repeated human rights violations, especially in Oromia, undermined the promise of internal self-determination. The contradiction became clear: rights recognized in law but denied in reality. Where constitutional federalism fails, nationalism reemerges, not as extremism, but as a demand for consistency. Part 7. Oromo nationalism and the Ethiopian state. The central conflict is often misrepresented as a struggle between unity and division. In reality, it is a struggle between unity imposed from above and unity negotiated from below. Oromo nationalism challenges a state-centric nationalism that prioritizes territorial control over popular consent. It asks a simple question: can a multinational state survive without genuine equality among its peoples? History suggests the answer is no. Part 8. A simple analogy. Imagine a house built without your consent. The rules are set by others. Your language is forbidden. Your room can be entered at any time. Oromo nationalism does not begin by demanding to burn the house. It begins by demanding a voice in how the house is governed. When that voice is ignored for too long, people start asking whether a different house is necessary. Conclusion. Nationalism as a mirror. Nationalism is not the disease. It is the symptom. It reflects unresolved questions of power, dignity, and belonging. Oromo nationalism exists because historical injustices remain unaddressed and contemporary. Self-determination remains incomplete. States endure not by denying identity, but by accommodating it honestly. Empires fall when they silence peoples. Democratic states survive when they listen. This has been a story of nationalism, not as myth, but as lived reality. Key references for further reading: Benedict Anderson, Imagined Communities, 1983. Ernest Gellner, Nations and Nationalism, 1983. Anthony D. Smith, Nationalism, 2001. UN Charter, Article 1. ICCPR and ICSCR, Common Article 1. UNESCO Gadaa System Inscription. Ethiopian Constitution, 1995, Article 39.